Welcome to Live from My Office. Glad you're here. And, of course, we're sponsored by Team Hochberg and David Hochberg. Look, these are the people. These are the people. You wondering who the people are? It's those people. These are the people. Those are the people that are going to get you the best rate on a mortgage. And that's the one of the very few big advantages that come out of this crazy year we're in. Rates are super, super low. More on that coming up. By the way, you can subscribe to this podcast, and I hope you will, because I never want you to miss a single action-packed episode wherever you get your podcast, if you haven't already done so. And if you have, thank you. Just hit the subscribe button on any podcast platform. Subscribe, follow, whatever they call it there, and you'll get every Steve Cochran Live from My Office episode. Today, we're talking sports. Will it last? Will it stay, or will it go? The great Doc Emrick, one of the greatest play-by-play guys, period, calling what I think is the toughest sport to call, the National Hockey League, and he's done it forever. And now he's doing it in a way that he never thought he'd do it. Explanations coming up. Also, my friend Steve Sands from the Golf Channel and NBC Sports coverage of golf. He also was going to do the Olympics, and he's the go-to guy for so many sports at NBC. He'll be in Chicago for the BMW, part of the FedEx Cup Playoffs coming up. We'll talk some golf, and we'll talk some of the ramifications of what's going on with the rest of the sports world as well, coming up too. But speaking of sports, and we will throughout this, I was watching the Ocho during the early days of the shutdown. You know what the Ocho is? The Ocho is ESPN's hilarious coverage of sports that you would otherwise have no interest in. But when there were no live sports on, why not dedicate a whole lot of programming to the World Axe Throwing Championships? Oh, yeah, the World Axe Throwing Championships, that was part of the festivities. Or you haven't heard play-by-play until you've heard play-by-play of cornhole. You know cornhole, that game you play in the backyard with the beanbags? The Cornhole Championships, that was also part of the Ocho, as covered by ESPN in West Palm Beach and WPTV-TV.
It's a staple of summer. But for Rosie Breen, cornhole is a way of life. This past weekend, Rosie won the Florida State title, qualifying her for the World Championships coming up in July.
It'll be exciting. It will definitely be nerve-wracking. I'll just have to stay focused and play my game.
Rosie's now ranked 5th in the entire world, into a serious passion.
I think one of my favorite parts of it is watching her. I mean, it's just fun to watch her. People really gravitate towards her.
Her boyfriend, Davis Streaker, started South Florida Cornhole and also qualified for the World Championships. And now this duo will pack their bags and land them on the international stage. I'm Ian Hest for ESPN 106.3 on News Channel 5.
And, of course, if you can't catch the cornhole, you could probably catch the slippery stairs competition. What is that? It's literally college teams fighting over who can climb stairs that have been made slippery by all sorts of lubricants and other things. Yeah, that's a sport. Remember the Anna Kendrick song Cups from Pitch Perfect? Sport cup stacking, that's a thing. And that also part of the ESPN coverage. My point for all of this is we don't want to go back there. We don't want to see the stupid robot fighting league, right? My Roomba can kick your Roomba's ass, maybe, but I don't want to see that or cherry pit spitting again. That's a thing they do in Eau Claire, Michigan, and it's part of the ESPN Ocho coverage as well. All of these sports on ESPN during the shutdown. So if we get another shutdown, if baseball can't get their act together and stay open, I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying? How about marble runs? Yeah, these are actual marble races. And you could see the Gels Marble Runs YouTube page like 100 million other people have. Oh, and stone skipping? You can't make it up. Stone skipping. Yeah, that's actually a sport, as mentioned by John Oliver on Last Week Tonight.
And now, the pointless but somehow mesmerizing play-by-play of the 51st Annual Stone Skipping Competition.
All
right, our first skipper today is Kurt, the Mountain Man Steiner.
Oh.
A lot of pity pats.
Very nice pity pats.
Next up is John, the Sheriff Kolar.
The sheriff. Is he a real sheriff or
No,
just his name?
that's his nickname.
Do they ever think of taking their shoes off before they go into the water?
No, because they're afraid they're going to slip on the rocks out there.
Yeah,
The algae that grows on them.
Shorts might have been a good call.
We have Max Top Gun Steiner. He learned most of what he got from Russ Rock Bottom Byers.
These are special stones. They're not just bending over and picking up a stone. These are stones these guys probably have slept with.
Sure, you take your world-class athletes all you want. I'll take the stone skippers of Mackinac Island, Michigan. And the two greatest sports, as far as I'm concerned, to watch when there are no sports on TV are these sports. Dodge juggle. Again, an actual sport that combines dodgeball and juggling. Or if you like, a game that I was quite good at back in the day, dodgeball. Just remember the number one rule.
If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. What? Any other questions?
By the way, honorable mention on a couple of sports that didn't get in. The Jewish mother guilt-off. I think you know how this works. Jewish mothers compete to see which of their children can be made to feel the most guilty for not calling. And the middle-aged man race, this is fascinating. I didn't qualify, but here's how it works. The middle-aged man race pits middle-aged men against each other to do the following events. Find the remote, pick a channel, wait for a commercial, get out of your chair without making too much noise, make a sandwich, go back to your chair, find the remote again, eat the sandwich, doze off for a nap, and get mad at your wife if she turns the TV off. Those, unfortunately, only got honorable mention and weren't, in fact, covered. Oh, it's going to be tough if sports go away again. So let's talk about the sports we have now and enjoy them. Starting with the great Doc Emrick when we come back here on Live from My Office. I want to talk to you about my friend David Hochberg. As you probably know, if you've been listening to Live from My Office, Team Hochberg and David Hochberg presenting sponsors of Live from My Office, and we very much appreciate the support. Now, you heard Hochberg on the radio with me for years. What can I say about Hochberg publicly that I haven't already said about him to his face and occasionally behind his back? Yeah, he's loud. He's passionate. He can seem a little over the top at times, but it's only because he loves you and he wants you to save as much money as possible. He's been doing mortgages for 20 years now, and he's put up an incredible number in loans that he's helped originate. He's put together a great team as well at Team Hochberg. It's easy to find out more anytime if you go to 56david.com or pick up the phone and call him up at 855-56-DAVID. But I've known Hochberg forever, and I'm here to tell you, he'll take the call himself. He'll make sure that whatever you need help with, you're going to get help with. And I'm talking about all of it. Student loan, debt, help with all the various things that can go on and be a money suck at your house. He's got a great team of people he works with. You hear him on the radio with him. And he's got you covered coming and going because he's thought about it all. And that's the thing. His team at Team Hochberg has seen it all. They're always available to answer questions, structure a loan, assist in getting your loan closed. You're going to know every step of the way all the things you need to know about the process you're in because it's a big deal. And if you're in the home buying process for the first time, they can show you various strategies to make sure you get the best financing options. That's the thing about Hochberg. It's opportunity in a bunch of different ways. You know, if you're a seasoned customer, you're one of these know-it-alls. You've been through it. You know what you're doing, and you only maybe need a little consultation. Well, a couple of things have changed. They'll help you through that process as well. And, of course, David Hochberg loves to help vets, whether it's VA loans or anything else related to vets and a payback for the service and the sacrifice you made for this country. He's there for that as well. Couldn't think higher. The folks at Team Hochberg presenting sponsors of Live from My Office. Remember, you can get a hold of them at 855-56-DAVID or 56david.com. Nothing makes me happier than to say hello to my friend Doc Emrick. Doc, how are you?
I'm good, Stephen. What about yourself?
Everything is fine. You know, we have small goals, and the small goals are that you want everybody to be healthy, and especially the folks you're closest to. And I'm blessed, and I know you are as well.
Yes. Yeah. And that's one of the things that comes out of this, an upside from many times that we've gone through and thought about downsides, but we can collect upsides too. And you still get your Mondays with Abigail Grace, and you go to cookie shops or
sure. Ice cream and cookies, and the little brother now, Isaac, is a year old, and he basically is preparing for the role of Bam Bam when the Flintstones do another movie, because he's built like his grandfather, except he crawls better, and when he crawls, if something's in his way, he just tosses it aside. I don't need this.
Those are the things you treasure.
It's just tremendous. All right, now, before we get to talking about hockey, which you and I love, and there's nobody better at it than you, and you'll always argue with me, but I'm telling you, you are. Here's the thing that I don't think people understand. This NHL production in these two cities has come off, I don't want to say without a hitch, but I think they've done a fabulous job.
It has been magnificent, and largely because of the athletes. I realize that the Players Association and the league, and when we talk about that, we wind up talking about a lot of people that went to law school. I understand that. But we also talk about a subcommittee of the Players Association that were the guys that wear the heavy equipment and sweat a lot during the winter. There were players on that committee. And when they were asked, when we return to play, do you want to do best of 7?
Right.
And they said, absolutely. We don't want any shortcuts. When we get down to 16 teams, we don't want this to be a cheap trophy. We want this to be best of 7. Okay, that's what it'll be. So that's the reason we're in the round now, round 1, and it's best of 7. It's not like a play-in like the Blackhawks went through when they eliminated Edmonton. That was a best of 5. This is best of 7. It's going to be that way all the way through. There are no shortcuts. When they were left to their own devices, going to and from their training camps. And the mantra with the Blackhawks was, don't be that guy. Mm-hmm. Don't be the guy that messes this up. And so far in the last 3 weeks, we've had over 18,000 tests and 18,000 perfect ones.
It's amazing.
And many of those have been in Canada, because one of the things that the league said right off in April is that we're not going to siphon away tests for athletes that might go to ordinary citizens. And in Canada, there's an abundance of tests because Canada has not had the problem that the U.S. has had.
Right.
So all of this has been thought out pretty well. At the same time, remarkably, they came up with an extension on the collective bargaining agreement through the spring of 2026. So there's just been a lot that has gone on that has been wonderful, but I emphasize the athletes because the first round and a half has been highly competitive. We even had a 5 overtime game, and the action has been what we expect out of playoff hockey. And considering these guys are starting from 0 to 78 RPMs, some of us who are gray-haired know what 78 RPMs.
Yeah, you and I do.
Yeah, it's the speed of a phonograph vinyl record, which goes way back into the Eisenhower era.
So here's the other thing that's really stuck out for me about this, and I haven't seen as many of the games from Toronto, but in Edmonton for sure. And you know me, I'm a hockey nut. I pay attention to all this stuff. One of the concerns was when they get into this, well, it's hockey in August, and you're going to get some fluky thing where a bad team, blows out a good team that normally would win. Look, I saw every minute of the Blackhawks series. They earned it. And the Penguins just went out, and you know what? They got beat fair and square. We've seen some really good hockey.
Yeah. Barry Trotz, who won a championship with Washington, and currently he's coaching the Islanders, and they're playing Washington in this round, said in the safety of April or May, a number 12 seed could win this entire tournament. Mm-hmm. And who's to say he's wrong? Montreal lost the opening game with Philadelphia in round 1, but they realized they can play with them. The Blackhawks not only realized they could play with Edmonton, they beat them. And this was a number 12 against a number 5. There's that much parity in this league that anybody can win it. And when a gambler? Question mark. Like Eddie Olczyk says, there is no favorite, even though the Vegas professionals gave odds-on favorite to no less than 7 teams out of 24. When Eddie Olczyk says there is no favorite, okay, I defer to him because he pays a lot more attention to this kind of thing than I do.
Right. Yeah. You and I are standing at the $2 window once a year. He actually owns the window.
Right. I was cautioned once when I was visiting with you on the air, and we had Joel Quenneville on.
Sure. I vaguely remember him, the guy with the mustache, right? He was pretty good.
Yes. I believe he said there's no such thing as a $2 window anymore, but you and I are products of another time.
That's exactly right. Well, I tell you, it's been a real joy, and I have so much respect for what you and Eddie have been able to do, and really the whole crew with NBC, because this is not a typical broadcast. And I would listen to you call the phone book. By the way, kids, there's another reference. The phone book is a thing where people's numbers used to be in it.
Yeah, it was a big, thick book that came once a year, and you sat on it in your high chair when you were a few months old.
Right,
so you could reach the table.
So I just, it has to be such a unique experience to call a game or games like this as well.
The strange thing is, and all of this, how much time do we have?
All the time you need, my friend.
Okay. So anyhow, the germination of this whole thing came from the spring when everyone was kept at home. And Eddie's doing horse races for NBC. And so I'm watching this, and everybody involved in the race is at their individual homes. And I'm watching this, and I realize that if we get lucky, we're going to return to play. And I'm watching Eddie doing the race from his home, and everybody else is too. So afterward, I called him and I said, what is the lag time on you watching the race, the man commenting on the race, and you're commenting from home? And he said, it's practically nothing. I said, really? And so we started talking about it at NBC. And of course, there are a couple of things in my past. One is cancer, and one is my birth certificate that made me at a little higher risk to be jumping on airplanes and going to hub cities, at least at the start of all of this.
Understandable.
So I got in touch with folks at NBC, and they said, yeah, we put equipment in Eddie Olczyk's house. We could certainly do that and test it out and see, because now instead of commenting on an event like an analyst would, when you're describing an event in play-by-play, I mean, obviously what you're seeing and the commentary needs to jive, because you can't be a pass behind. So they had someone drive out from Stamford, Connecticut with a van full of equipment. They set up a studio in the house, and they tested it out. And the result is what you are seeing. It is remarkable. I don't know the technology, but I know they've made it work. And so one of the games we did in the Blackhawks Edmonton series, and one of the games that Eddie and Pierre and I are going to do in the Chicago-Vegas series, he will be in Stamford, Connecticut. I will be in Michigan. Pierre will be inside the glass in Edmonton. And when we put our headsets on, we always test to see how quickly we hear one another.
Sure.
And it's remarkable. And I don't know how it works, but all I know is it works.
Well, God bless the engineers. Yeah, God bless the engineers. But
right.
It's a testament to all three of you. Now, I know you and Eddie, you're like brothers from a different mother, because Eddie is so good at that second chair. He knows, and people don't understand, the second chair in a game as fast as hockey, or frankly on a talk show, the most important thing is not knowing when to talk, it's knowing when not to talk.
Yeah, you're right.
And he is fantastic, and you guys are Fred and Ginger. I want to get as many old guy references in here as possible. And it's very impressive. But I'm thinking of all the stuff you've done, and I know it's mostly hockey, but you've done baseball and you've done sports your whole life. Is there anything that even approaches the uniqueness of doing a game this way?
No. He and I have sat next to one another in other places, and occasionally I've done a game off the monitor. For example, when the Blackhawks played the Blues in St. Louis, the Winter Classic, we were to be up against the glass next to the penalty box like we always are for Winter Classic games. And a lightning storm hit a half hour before the game. They always have a backup booth set up for us in the press box in case something like that happens.
Sure.
They were worried about lightning striking the equipment. ...
Yeah, they were worried that some of Eddie's past might come back to him with Mother Nature.
Right. So anyway, we wound up upstairs. Now, Eddie, of course, has time to react to the game and watch it with the naked eye, but I've got to call the game, and we're working from 150 to 200 feet behind home plate with a rink that is between third base and first.
Wow.
And a 4-inch sleeve number. You're not going off the numbers on the guy's back, because if he's got his back turned to you, he's going to Rockford the next day. So this is a game where they're going across, not turned with their backs to you. So as a result, I had to call the game off the monitor, and it's a little disconcerting, but occasionally you could sneak a look above the monitor and actually see the rink. Here you can't. So to have that happen and to have people in 3 different places, I have, just to give you a vision of what it's like, I have a 32-inch monitor. I'm sitting at a table, and I have a 32-inch monitor to my left. Mm-hmm. And that's the one that is identical or maybe smaller than the one you might have at home that you're watching the game from.
Right.
To my right, I have a 32-inch monitor that has 2 pictures within picture. One on the left is Eddie inside a little cubicle booth in Stamford, and I rarely look at it because, we don't wave at one another or anything like that. He can see me, I can see him. Right. And the other is usually reserved for any kind of replays or something like that they might want to show either one of us. So that's how it is, and that's what we see. So I work off of that, and what I see is what you see at home. And there are limitations to that in terms of players' substitutions. You usually don't see players going to the bench when you're watching a game at home. They're showing maybe the defenseman holding the puck by himself behind the net. Well, players are changing while he's doing that. We don't really have an idea as to who's coming on in replacing that. Whereas if I were in the arena, I'd be sneaking a look at the bench to see what line is coming on against what one. Sure. Because nothing else is happening at that time. The other thing that we are limited to do because we aren't in the arena, but we would be limited in the arena now because of the limitations due to COVID anyway, is that we can't go into the Blackhawks dressing room and sit next to Patrick Kane or Jonathan Taves or Alex DeBrincat and get special stories from them about what it's like or something else that we can weave in to the game. We don't have that access anymore, and we didn't on the morning of the 11th of March before that last game Eddie and I did with San Jose and Chicago. We did not have access to the dressing room that day because the COVID rules had already been in place. So we wouldn't really miss anything now that we would then because the press conferences that those players might have are all available to everybody in the media anyway.
But there's a couple things that jump out there for me because I know a little bit about your routine. And aside from being a good guy and you love people, you have a routine in pregame where you go around and you're not just in the dressing room. You talk to a bunch of people. You might have a story about the organist, or you might have run into somebody in the concourse who you hadn't seen in a long time who's worthy of bringing up. So I know you fill your brain, if not note cards, with things that have happened during the course of preparing for the game. So how much of a bigger challenge is it now? Not that you ever really have time to wax poetically, but you're so good at filling those blanks. Is it harder to do it this way in that regard as well?
Yeah, it is. The good thing is most times it's 3 of us, and usually because we are taking a feed from Canada, and by a feed, I mean the picture that you are getting at home is what we are getting at the same time. Mm-hmm. And there are times, and we're not, just airing the challenges that we have. There are times that we are getting replays that we don't know are coming, And that's not through any lack of coordination. It's just that it's understood that after a goal, you're going to get a replay or two. But sometimes you're not aware of it until it pops up on the screen. So as a result, you don't take as many chances or request an isolation of Alex DeBrincat because you've got a good story about him or something like that. You're not able to take those kinds of chances, and you understand that going in. If we were doing an NBC telecast from United Center and it was Chicago against Vegas, I would undoubtedly ask to get in a couple of stories about individual players. Probably about Zach Whitecloud, who is native Canadian and
great story
from a reservation, or about Malcolm Subban, the backup goaltender. We're still okay on time?
Yep, completely.
Okay, so this one is probably never going to get in, and I've been holding on to it for probably 5 years. So he's with the Boston Bruins, and we're at Madison Square Garden, and it's a morning skate, and he's a backup goaltender. He's not going to play that night. Tuukka Rask is. So, anyway, I said, so back in your junior days, because I always like to ask about bus trips and things like that. Anything unusual happened? He said, I was with the Belleville Bulls. He didn't even pause. Said I was with the Belleville Bulls and we were playing Sudbury. And it was the day of the game. And my teammates and I got on the elevator at the hotel in Sudbury. And the elevator said limit 10 people. There were 9 of us. We got on the elevator and it started up and it stuck between floors. So we took out the hotel, the phone inside the elevator and called, and we explained to them what had happened. And they said, okay, we'll call the fire department and the rescue unit will come and we'll get it taken care of. So they wait. And they wait. Now the interior walls of the elevator are starting to sweat.
Oh, not good.
And the oxygen is starting to get pretty heavy because you know what an elevator car is like.
Right, because you're also getting CO2 that you're not getting rid of because it's a confined space.
You're all over it. You didn't sleep through science class like I did. An hour passes.
Oh, you're kidding.
And they are now taking turns dropping to the bottom of the elevator car to get the only oxygen that's left.
Wow.
They are rescued an hour and 15 minutes after the call was made, but they all got out okay, and it's a fun story now. But it does take some time to tell. And there's not time during a game because by now there have been 4 face-offs and 5 shots on goal. But it's a fun story to tell because it comes out okay.
Right.
But it's probably a story that I'll never get a chance to tell just because it takes so much time.
Well, and the thing is, even if it's a disputed replay and you're waiting or whatever the circumstance might be that would buy you the time, you can't determine when that time runs out. And
No.
I could just see you getting to the cliffhanger point and saying, we'll get back to that in just a second.
Yeah.
And the people are in the elevator and they can't breathe.
Yeah, I've never told that story before, so that's
I'm honored.
exclusive for Steve Patrick, and probably will never get a chance to tell it again.
I'm honored.
But
I'm
Malcolm
honored.
is he's the second goaltender for the Blackhawks now. He spent 3 years or 2 and a fraction years backing up Marc-Andre Fleury out in Vegas. But what a harrowing story to go through, waiting for the rescue unit to come and to have the presence of mind to start buying oxygen by dropping down to the very bottom of the elevator car to get it.
That's when you're waiting for Kiefer Sutherland to drop down and open the top of the elevator, or Bruce Willis and pull you out one at a time. And some of you may say, well, that's a movie. Not in my world. At that point, I'm expecting either one of them to show up.
Yeah,
So-
anything you can get. No, that's for sure. One other favorite of mine, and again, it's another Chicago story, and it's another former Blackhawk, Adam Clendenning.
Sure.
Was back and forth between Rockford and Chicago. But at one time when he was with Rockford, I think I got this on a Blackhawks telecast once, He was playing for Rockford, and they had a game against the Chicago Wolves, very close to O'Hare.
Mm-hmm.
And so the equipment already went ahead in a separate vehicle, and the guys are just traveling on the bus from Rockford out to the northern part of Chicago for the game.
Mm-hmm.
The bus breaks down about 10 miles outside of Rockford on the way to Chicago.
Mm.
And so the bus grinds to a halt, and then all of a sudden smoke starts pouring out of the back of the bus. So everybody gets out of the bus, and now the bus catches on fire.
Oh, you're kidding.
Well, there's no equipment on the bus, so there's no harm there. The guys, because it's such a short trip, didn't bring any gear on the bus, so everybody's fine. And the bus is not fine. So the driver calls back to the terminal in Rockford and it reported what had happened. And they said, well, there's no problem. There's another bus that's almost there. Get on that one, and it'll take you there. Well, the bus that pulls up is one of those shuttles that's taking passengers to O'Hare. So they get on the bus with a bunch of passengers going to O'Hare. Well, of course, they got to make their deliveries first. So the guys are on there with all the civilians that have their luggage there, and they go around to each individual terminal and do the drop-offs, and then the driver takes them over to the rink for the game.
Yeah, because Rosemont, for people listening wherever you are in the world, is about, it's a solid 10 minutes, maybe 15 from O'Hare. So you can see these guys just trying to go to work. That's fantastic. Now, here, listen.
Oh, that's what's so much fun. That one I actually had time to get on, but the Malcolm Subban story with the happy ending, though a scary story, probably will never make it, but that one's for you and your listeners.
I am honored, and the only other time I've been honored in this way, I'll tell you a quick story because I know what a Dan Hampton fan you are. As am I. And Hamp told us this story on the radio show, and that is this. He is with, I think it was Mongo, and they're leaving Green Bay after an exhibition game. You remember when football had preseason, maybe 6 games, I think, and then it went to 4. But at any rate, they come out, and because it's Green Bay, remember, this is the place where the players ride fans' bikes as an annual tradition, their bicycles during camp, and take pictures with them and things like that. It's very quaint. It's nice. It's a Green Bay tradition.
Yeah, only 100,000 people and an NFL team. Yeah,
it's amazing. So Hampton and McMichael decide, those brats smelled pretty good. And after they finish the game, and again, it's an exhibition game, they shower up and they hustle out in the parking lot. And they find some Bear fans who are cooking brats in the parking lot, and some Packer fans come over. And sure, it's the Bears and the Packers, but that's Dan Hampton. So they're having a great old time. They're talking and everything else. And all of a sudden, McMichael looks up and sees the Bears team bus is leaving. So, as it's pulling out, Hamp and McMichael start running after it, and Coach Mike Ditka leans out the window and gives them the double bird salute. So you don't get on my bus, figure out your own way home. And that's what they did. They go back to where the tailgaters were, and those people couldn't have been more thrilled to give Hampton and McMichael a ride home all the way from Green Bay back to Chicago.
Oh, my goodness. Good for them.
So, that is, to me, it's one of the great charms of sports are the stories that happen off the field, off the ice, off the court, because there's so many great ones that don't get a chance to get told.
I agree.
All right, so what are your thoughts on the big picture here? Baseball, has sort of been on the brink because you've had some players that didn't follow the rules. I personally feel the National Football League would probably be better. I know there's money involved. But if they went to a regional system, a pod system, if you will, with 6 or 7 locations where you could play these games, because there's no reason to believe that we're going to be out of this until we have a legitimate vaccine, not the Vladimir Putin version, and that could mean trouble for the NFL. And listen, if there's no NFL, this country really is going to be upset.
Yeah, no, that's true, and I. As much as I'd like to comment, it wouldn't be from any intelligence. It would just be from the heart. I love watching football, and I love watching all the sports. But I don't have that kind of knowledge like I do about what happens in hockey. They line up on the line of scrimmage and they battle each other every play. Every play has to start from those guys on the line being one breath away from each other and breathing hard. And so I would not presuppose to say what's safe for them. I really wouldn't. I know that our guys are bubbled, and that has a tremendous amount of safety built in as to what they do, and they're tested every day. And so they've been flawless thus far, knock on wood, in their testing. So I know that our game is as safe as it possibly can be. But I don't know what to say, Steve. I would love to watch the games, but I sure don't want to do it at the risk of the athletes.
All right. Well, before I let you go, give me a sense of what the schedule is then. We get a Stanley Cup winner, even if all these series go the distance, in what? Late September?
Early October, September. Okay. Yeah, if this moves along according to plan, and there's no reason to think that it won't, that potentially the Stanley Cup final could be moved up if both of the conference finals end early, and they ended in 4 or 5 games, let's say, both of them. Then the final could be moved up, and the teams would be in Edmonton for the conference final anyway, so they'd all be right there. And so the final could start early. And so it might end by late September rather than early October. But I believe the last possible date for the Stanley Cup final, if it went the limit, would be October 3rd or 4th.
And then, obviously, you don't turn around and go to camp for next season.
No.
So what is the plan
They're
there?
saying December 1st.
Okay.
And the other important leagues that operate, including the one the Wolves are in, the American League, the ECHL, are all projecting with their fingers crossed that they could begin right around that same time, because those leagues, you know, they operate with players that are sent further down from NHL teams. And the difference between those leagues and the NHL is that they don't count heavily on television money. Not that the NHL gets large television money, but they get some.
Oh, sure.
And so the American League and the ECHL and all the other leagues down below count heavily on ticket sales, which means fans in the building, and sponsorships, which again means fans in the arena to notice the commercials on the boards and in the programs and all of that. So we need to have safety for fans to attend games for those leagues to be able to flourish.
It's absolutely fascinating on all of these different levels. I certainly hope we don't have to do it again for the obvious reasons. But again, you're not just my friend. You are the best that does this and has done this and will do this. And it is such a pleasure to hear you do these games. We got hockey in August. What else could you want?
Well, one of God's greatest gifts is memory, and one of man's greatest gifts is videotape or audio tape. And I count greatly the memories that we have had over the past. And we made another one today. So you make sure that you buy the cookies next time for AG and Isaac.
I will do that. And next time you and I talk, I'll also have a case of Ensure, because if you and I make one more old guy reference, we're going to need it.
Very good. Take care.
All the best. It's the great Doc Emrick, NBC Sports and NBC Sportsnet, and doing a phenomenal job as always on Live from My Office. We couldn't do Live from My Office without David Hochberg. All right. Maybe we could. Well, we wouldn't want to. I think by now, and if not by now, very soon, you could actually hear an interview I did with David Hochberg on the sponsor page at CochranShow.com. You go there and you'll listen to a long-form discussion I had with David about what he does, how he does it, and why he does it. There's a lot of good stuff in there that you can glean, because this is a big deal. When you finance your home or you refinance, it's a major commitment. Now, it's great that you're going to be saving money. And frankly, Team Hochberg's doing all the heavy lifting. First-time home buyers, second homes, multi-unit investment properties. I mean, Team Hochberg, they got it all figured out, and they can help work through it with all of you as well. You know, one of the main objectives, of course, is to ensure that everybody involved is happy when the process is done. Even though Hochberg is loud and he might frighten you, don't be scared. He's quite huggable, I'm told. And we've been pals for a long time. I've told you before, I'll tell you again. He's handled a couple of my sister's loans. refi on our house again, which he just did recently. And he's about to do a refi on my daughter's house. They did the mortgage for her home. It's her first house. And I trust Hochberg with my family. So I highly recommend him to you. It's Team Hochberg and David Hochberg. He'll tell you that, look, there's not many advantages to what we've gone through in 2020, but one of them is rates are not going to get lower. So take advantage of them now so you don't miss this bus. It's David Hochberg and Team Hochberg, and they're ready to help you get through the refi process or the original process of getting a loan set up on your home, the largest purchase you're ever going to make. Thank you again to David Hochberg, Team Hochberg, presenting sponsors of Live from My Office. Get a hold of him at 855-56-DAVID or 56david.com. All right, welcome back. This is Live from My Office. I'm Steve Cochran, and it is just a thrill for me to always say this. Welcome to the show, Steve Sands. How are you, my friend?
Doing fantastic, Steve. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing well. Of course, everybody knows you from the Golf Channel, NBC Sports. You covering everything in sports. Now, were you supposed to do the Olympics this year if it was going to go down?
I'm supposed to be talking to you right now from Tokyo.
That's what I thought. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, thankfully it was postponed and not canceled. A lot of sports have been canceled, obviously, but as long as everything gets under control, which is a big if, obviously, they should have the Olympics same dates next summer in Tokyo, hopefully.
Yeah, and I want to get to golf too, but you've been doing so many different sports now, and you have to be involved in this world on every level. And now, as of August 11th, when we're recording this, you got the Big Ten and you got the Power 5 conferences looking very much like they're going to shut down college football. I understand the logic of it, but that's a huge deal. And I do feel for these kid athletes, but I don't know what else you do.
Yeah, I don't know what else to do. I think there are a couple of things working there. I think, liability is the biggest thing.
Yep.
I just don't think these schools can take it financially if somebody gets sick. God forbid somebody gets sick and gets severely sick or even,
dies.
Horrifyingly dies. The liability issue for these universities, for these colleges is just too much for them. I think that's the first thing. And I think that the public health issue obviously is there, but I think it's more of a financial thing than anything else for a liability issue. And I also think that what's fascinating on the other side of that is Jay Monahan is the commissioner of the PGA Tour, does a really good job.
Yep.
The PGA Tour, like NASCAR, kind of started the sports run here with everything coming back. And there was a time period there for about 5 or 6 days where a bunch of people tested positive. I think like 6 or 7 people in a 5-day span, players and caddies.
Yep.
And everybody's like, oh, here we go. It's going to shut down. And Monahan got up there and said, you know what? We need to learn to live with this. And our guys need to tighten the screws and stop going out. I don't mean going out doing anything bad. I mean just going to grab a pizza or going to grab a beer, doing just normal stuff. And since then, there have been very, very few issues in golf. So whether you're on the side of college football to go play because it's the safest place for them to be in that kind of college bubble, or you're on the side of it's too much of a liability, right now, the universities and the presidents in particular are taking the side of the liability.
And you don't get it back. If you're wrong, if you say go play and you're wrong and a kid gets sick and dies or goes home and makes his parents or his grandparents sick and they die, you don't get a mulligan with that. If you put the season off now, you can do it in the spring. Yeah, it sucks. It all sucks. But it's like people who bitch about wearing masks. Really? That's a problem?
Yeah.
Wear your mask. Stay away from people. Grow up.
I'm with you, man. I mean, look, nobody likes wearing a mask. I've been wearing a mask for months now. I'm like, man, this blows. And I always use, the Asian culture. It was very prevalent in that culture, and we've spent a lot of time the last 8 or 10 years over in Asia. And I always thought, man, I can't be comfortable and that kind of thing. And I didn't poo-poo it. I never thought anything negative about it. I just kept thinking to myself, man, that would really kind of suck if we had to do that. And now we do, and you kind of get used to it. And by the way, it's the safe thing for people to do and for people to do for others who are around them.
Yeah.
So if that's the worst thing that happens, then just wear the mask, for goodness sake. This thing is interesting because I'm sure you've been watching a lot of hockey and watching the NBA and watching the baseball and watching the golf and whatever sport you choose to watch. You know, the show goes on, you know, and there are no fans, and that's no good. But, you know, I've talked to a couple of guys in the NBA and the NHL and Major League Baseball the last few weeks. Steve, they're like, you know what? It's great to compete. They pumped in the crowd noise a little bit. It almost, in quotations, feels normal to watch sports now after a few weeks like that.
Yeah, and explain to people why it came back the way it came back. Aside from the medical, the sponsors had to have a product that was worthy of their dollars they were spending on sponsorships. So I assume TV drove part of the return?
No question. Listen, sports at the highest level, even college, I mean, the players don't get paid, but you're talking about multiple billions of dollars in that industry. And on the professional level, you have Major League Baseball, but Major League sponsors paying Major League dollars for that type of visibility, hospitality, just the whole thing around the entire sports business. So you have to take away the hospitality part, but you still need to see, you know, like if the Bulls are playing on television, if they were in the bubble and playing on television, you would see United, which pays a lot of money for the United Center, on the floor. And, you know, that's high dollar stuff. And by the way, you know, for those of us at NBC, with golf and NASCAR and the NHL, for ESPN and TNT and ABC for the NBA and all the local Major League Baseball markets for television, they need the programming and the advertising. There's a lot at stake there. So separating the professionals from the college game is very easy. They get paid. They have a union, and they're basically protected by, you know, the union standards and the league. In college, they're not. So if anything's going to go away in this, I would think it would be the college game as opposed to, or delay it to the spring, like you said, as opposed to the professional game, which you can kind of plow through this because you know what's at stake for them, and they're adults and they're being paid handsomely to do that job.
Yeah, 100%. Now, baseball, you're a Nats guy. You're in D.C. I'm in Chicago. We got the Cubs and the White Sox. It's supposed to be a huge year for the White Sox on the way to. But baseball continues to have guys who are breaking the rules and going out. At least this is what people are saying, and logically it makes sense. They've got a COVID problem. But the NHL and the NBA seem to have buttoned this up pretty well.
Yeah, it's amazing to me, the difference in the sports. I'm fascinated by it. Not just the individual sports like golf and tennis, but golf seemingly has gotten it right, and they're not in a bubble because they can't be, because they're not in a union. They're traveling to and from places. Some guys play 1 week, some guys don't play, some guys fly private, some guys fly, you know, commercial, some guys ride RVs, however you go about your business. Baseball, the union in baseball and Major League Baseball itself decided not to do what the NHL did, put the Western Conference in Edmonton, put the Eastern Conference in Toronto, the NBA choosing to put the entire league in Orlando and put them in a bubble so they can go about their business pretty much uninterrupted. Whereas baseball, they just chose not to do it. And they could have. Look, there are no fans. Those spring training venues in Arizona and in Florida could easily have handled baseball, because without fans, Steve, it's not like those fields aren't regulation size.
100%.
It's not like you're trying to adhere to having more and more fans. It's not like going to, you know, Wrigley Field. So why they chose not to do that, you know, they didn't want to be away from their families for a certain amount of period of time for the players' sake, and they didn't want to do certain things financially on the baseball side, the league side. They needed to come together, and they didn't. And they're kind of, they're not getting what they deserve, because I want them to succeed, but they're getting what, you know, their lack of a deal deserves. And that's a mess, man. I mean, the Cardinals are, and I know you guys hate the Cardinals up there in Chicago, but the Cardinals, I mean, what are you going to do with the Cardinals and Marlins? You know, the Cardinals and Marlins just aren't going to make it to 60 games.
And you think about the Cardinals, that still is, in my mind, the greatest baseball city in America.
No question.
That city eats, sleeps, and breathes the Cardinals. And
no question.
to not even be able to get a 60-game season in on a town that's struggling itself, I mean, that's a big deal.
It's a very big deal. It's a big deal for the whole thing. So the union in baseball and Major League Baseball itself not being able to come to an agreement somehow to get them in a bubble is a mess, man. A major league, no pun intended, mess.
Literally.
And that's a shame because the NHL has looked and sounded great, and the NBA, if you're an NBA guy, has looked and sounded great, and they're both, intact and rolling along. And baseball has been very, very sketchy to get this thing started.
And it's not like these guys can't behave. I mean, you may remember that the sports wheels came off when an NBA player tested positive.
Yeah, Rudy Gobert.
Yeah, and, rubbing the microphones and all and being a smartass. But the NBA players, if you put money on it, you go, well, the NBA guys aren't going to be able to stay in one place. They're not going to listen. Well, they're listening. It's doable. And you're right. Baseball blew it. Now, I'll tell you what, I'm a little concerned about the NFL because they think they're just going to be able to make it happen.
Well, the NFL's doing the same thing that Major League Baseball did.
Right.
And they're having everybody stay in their own cities. So I get that these guys are, they want to go grab a drink. They want to go out to dinner. They want to go to a casino. They want to do whatever they want to do. I get it. And the NFL's biggest issue is not going to be getting on a plane on Saturday morning and playing a game on Sunday or whatever the day is that week, a Thursday night game, a Sunday night game, whatever it is. Their biggest issue is that, 5-6 days a week, these guys are going to be going home, or they're going to be going to a hotel in their own city. And the chances of them over the course of 4 or 5 months not leaving their room or going out and getting the coronavirus, you would think are pretty high.
Right.
And once it gets into a locker room, as we've seen with the Marlins and as we've seen with the Cardinals in baseball, then it gets a little sloppy. So, we all want sports to happen. We all want the NFL to keep going. I think the NFL is going to start on time. See, whether they're going to finish, who knows? But I think they're going to start on time.
Yeah, I think you're right. And you talk about money. That thing it's just gigantic.
Oh, my gosh.
Now, this may be a little deep in the weeds for some folks, but the sports casting part of this during COVID is fascinating to me. You got guys in studios here in Chicago and other places. And I've watched a few of the NHL playoff games, all the Blackhawks games, and they've been flawless so far, working off monitors.
Yeah, it's amazing. We in golf, we've done the same thing. We've got the same type of thing as Doc and the setup they have in Chicago. Some of them are done in a studio, which is bizarre. Mm-hmm. But once you get into the event, then you're just doing your thing. If you're lucky enough to be on site, like we'll be in Chicago for the BMW Championship, we'll be on site. I've talked to some of the guys who have been on site already with no fans, no juice, no energy. What's the right type of noise or volume you can have as an announcer? I don't mean to mess with the guys on the golf course, but is it a weird energy if you're excited after a great shot and there's no clapping or no roars, that kind of thing. So it's a strange time in our business as far as broadcasting sports. But like I said, I think that the NHL, I've watched all the games that I've been able to, especially the Capitals games.
Sure.
I've watched a lot of the Nats games in baseball, and I've watched a lot of the NBA. I think it sounds good, and I think it looks good. I just hope it continues. And the guys, by the way, what's interesting about the NHL versus the NBA and Major League Baseball is that every game has mattered from the jump.
Yep. And
the NBA playoffs haven't started yet. The 60 games for the baseball Major League Baseball is kind of setting up the playoffs. Every shot matters in golf every week. And we just came off of a major championship, so obviously that's been the biggest week so far. But in hockey, every game has mattered. And now the playoffs begin for real, and now they really start mattering. And I just think it's been pretty wild how all the leagues have done it. And from a sportscasting standpoint, from our business, we're just clowns in the show. What matters the most is we're just clowns in the circus. What matters most is the competition. And the competition's been good. It's been high-level play. And the guys have gotten used to playing without the fans. And that was a very big concern for all sports for various reasons. But they've gotten used to it. And I think that fans have gotten used to watching it as well. And I think sportscasters who have handled them, like Doc Those of us in golf and the hockey and the tennis and the NASCAR and the basketball and the baseball, I think they pretty much sound pretty normal watching a game. Seems like to me anyway.
Yeah, I agree with you. And several people have said to me, well, you golfers, that's us, you golfers, you always insist on silence anyway. Why is it such a big deal? And I said, well, if you walk into your office now, next year, whenever that is again, and suddenly you're the only one there, or there's only you and a few other people and nobody else is there, it's going to be a little weird, and you're going to have to get used to it. Have any of the guys that people really know the names of, have they expressed how weird it is for them to you?
Oh, they all have. Yeah, I mean, they all have. But they say it with reverence to the fans. You know, like I think that one of the things that we do is we provide. We're the caveat between, you know, the players and the fans. You know, we're the conduit between the two that allows fans to get to know the players. Well, in golf, you know, unlike the other sports for the most part, but in golf, especially in golf, fans are right there by the action. And the ball can go into where the crowds are when they hit it wide of the fairway or long at a green or somewhere in a bunker where the rope happens to be right there. So, you know, if we're the conduit between the fans and the athletes in golf, you know, you don't need one when you're at a tournament in person. So the players have all said, because you can get so close to the action, you can get in the front row and sit behind home plate. There's a net. There's about 10 more yards.
Yep.
And then there's the catcher. There's the umpire, the catcher, the batter, the pitcher, the whole thing. And in golf, you're right there. So what the golfers have expressed to us in the last 2 months since the restart, after that long break, is how much they miss the fans, how much they miss the energy, how much they miss the buzz. And the funny thing is as much as they used to get annoyed when someone would make noise in their backswing or yell something stupid, you know, after the ball strike, you know, like "you the man" or, you know, "mashed potato" or one of those.
Baba Booey.
Right, Baba Booey. One of those goofy things. The guys all say they miss it, and they can't wait for the fans to come back. And then there will be another adjustment period for them because they've gotten used to playing with no fans. But anybody who's watched any sport, golf especially on Saturday and then really, really strong on Sunday, to not have the fans on Sunday at a golf tournament at the highest level in the PGA Tour is just really odd. And the guys know it. The guys feel it. The guys miss it. And they can't wait for the fans to come back.
Well, and this Sunday, just past Sunday, you had this unbelievable finish of the PGA Championship, and I want to talk to you about the next star because this kid's amazing, Colin Morikawa. But you could have had a 6-way playoff. You could have had noise like would have been coming out of the trees at Augusta in that back nine. And it wasn't there. So, yeah, it was bizarre. It's a bizarre experience to watch it as well, but it's so cool to have it. And you know, look, you had a great story in the PGA Championship. I'm always pulling for the old guys. Well, in this case, it's Paul Casey, who could not have been classier and great about finishing second to Colin Morikawa, this kid who everybody on tour and everybody that pays attention to golf knows, but now everybody in America knows him and around the world.
Yeah, he's a star. You know, I don't love to rub the anointing oil on young athletes too quickly before you start making them stars. But when you win 3 times in your first year and a half, he was in college 15 months ago, Steve.
That's ridiculous.
When you win a major championship, when you stare down Justin Thomas in a playoff a few weeks ago at Muirfield Village, when you win on your rookie campaign like you did last year at the Barracuda Championship, those are some heady things. And you're putting yourself in some serious company at 23 years of age to win a major championship. And for anybody who will, now, most golfers will tell you, it is a little bit easier to win without fans. It is. It's just only natural because the nerves can't be as high. However, the playing field, the beauty of golf, is that the playing field is even. It's that way for all of the guys.
Yep.
It's not just that way for a young guy versus an old guy. Paul Casey didn't feel any more or less nervous trying to win his first major championship than Colin Morikawa did in their own way, however their own personalities are. So Colin, I mean, he stepped up in a big spot. Jeez, he hit some great shots. And he stared down. Koepka was there early. He faded. Dustin Johnson, major champion. Paul Casey's a world-class player. There were a lot of guys on that leaderboard who have done some really, really great things in the sport. And Morikawa didn't just stare him down. He took him down. And he was fabulous. Late. On that back nine on Sunday, he could not have played any better. And he is going to be, if he stays healthy and he stays focused, he has all the makings, Steve, of being a massive star in the sport. He's got all the tools that you need to be a star.
Sure.
He's got the game. He's got the personality. He's got the look. He's got the feel. You know, like if it was, and I'm not going to name any names, but just take a big dorky guy or some really unathletic looking guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to make that person into someone who's a massive star like Tiger Woods, you know? And you've got to have all the parts. And Colin has all the parts. He's a really nice kid. He's a sharp kid. And, man, can he play.
Well, and here's the thing, and it's way obviously too early to be saying, here's your next Tiger, because you can pull a muscle whipping that statement out. But the difference between Colin Morikawa and Tiger at this age is, you know, they're both West Coast college geniuses. They're both really smart guys. But Tiger was always really socially awkward. He's really, I mean, now he's almost 45. In the past 4 or 5 years is where he really has started to come out of his shell and publicly seem more comfortable and joking around a little bit and stuff. Morikawa, with that smile and his calm way of dealing with things, but also his ability to answer questions, he just seems like a really mature guy and a guy that's got more to say, and that puts him a little ahead of where Tiger was at 23.
Yes, yeah, no question about it. I think that, you know, again, the reason that Tiger became Tiger is because it was like a wave of incredible play as an amateur. Came right out on the PGA Tour and won big. Then he won that Masters in '97.
Yep.
Good-looking guy, big smile, massive star, the whole story, the background, his dad, the whole thing going on, and he just kept winning and winning and winning. If Morikawa keeps winning and winning and winning, you know, you can make him out to be a massive, massive star. If he just kind of puts himself in neutral and wins every once in a while, wins some big events, this, that, and the other thing, you know, he'll be just another, I don't mean just another, but just another great player. If he continues to win at this pace, which is nearly impossible, but if he continues to win at this pace, I mean, you're looking at the next young star on the PGA Tour, and he's only 23 years of age, handles himself so well. I'm not saying he's going to be the next Tiger Woods. That's a long, long ways away. But if you had to pick a young guy under the age of 25 who has a chance to be the next great star on tour, he would have to be at the top of the list. He is a tremendous, tremendous player. And like you said, he's mature for 23, handles himself really well, and can play. He's not afraid. You know what's interesting about the personality thing, Steve? You and I are old.
Mm-hmm.
But the interesting thing about these young kids who come out, so Morikawa is in this group with a guy named Victor Hovland from Norway and Matthew Wolff. All three won as rookies on the PGA Tour. All three came out of school at the same time. They're kind of lumped together. Now, Morikawa has separated himself from those two with a couple more wins and most notably now a major championship. But those three kind of were the young stars. What those three have in common is, amongst other things, of being a great player, but what they have in common personality-wise is social media, the outward nature of the way kids are today. I mean, kids today tell their parents and tell their friends everything, whereas in our days, we didn't tell anybody anything.
Nope.
You know, we didn't have the avenue for it. We just kept things more close to the vest. These kids today are way more open and honest, and it's a wonderful thing to interview Colin, to be around him, to talk to him, and then see him go back it up with his game. When he says, I'm ready to win out here, he's not saying it arrogantly. He's saying it matter of fact. He's just, if that's a word, factly, he's just being matter of fact. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And he's not being arrogant. He's just speaking his mind, and then he goes and backs it up. So it's hard to argue with anything that kid's done so far. He's just a fabulous kid, and he's obviously a great player.
And if you don't know golf or necessarily love golf, what he did was a Michael Jordan thing on Sunday. And again, I'm not comparing him to Michael Jordan. I'm just saying it was a Michael Jordan move. I want the ball. He's standing on 16. He could finish top 5. He'll have exemptions set up. You know, he could lay a 6-iron down the middle of that fairway on 16, throw a wedge up. Maybe he makes birdie. Maybe he doesn't. He didn't hesitate. He pulled a driver and hit one of the great shots in golf history. That impressed me because he wasn't throwing money away. He wanted to do it because he wanted to win.
No question. And, you know, there's always been a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit of murmuring of a debate in golf when guys are trying to win versus trying to protect their position.
Yep.
And I, as a sports fan, I always want someone to try to win. You know, protecting second versus fifth, I know there's $1 million difference in the two, but forget the money. You know, when you're out there competing, aren't you there to win? You shouldn't be thinking of second, third, fourth, and fifth. And I love the fact that he took out that big stick on 16 when he had to do it and literally hit the shot of his life. And good for him. And by the way, if he doesn't hit that great of a drive there, it's not the wrong play. It just didn't work out.
Yep.
I think people think in sports that if something doesn't work out, that it's the wrong play. I disagree. I disagree with that. You can go back, you know, to the years in sports, in all sports, in individual sports and in team sports, of decisions that worked out and didn't work out. Just because they work out or don't work out doesn't mean it's not the correct thing to do. What he did was the correct thing, and he executed the game plan perfectly. So good for him. If he hit a bad drive there, I still think it was the right shot at 16.
I'll let you run, Steve Sands. I got to ask you about the BMW. Are you going to be in Chicago in a couple of weeks? And of the guys that everybody talks about, obviously Tiger's always a story. Phil at 50 is still a story. Phil fighting with Faldo is a story. So,
cool.
But
we'll do a whole new podcast on that. But
yeah, there you go. But let me run a couple names by you. Just give me a gut response on these. Where's Dustin Johnson at? I know he played great, but is he not a closer in these majors?
No, he'll be fine. He got beat the other day. Mm-hmm. He didn't lose.
Right.
There's a big difference between blowing a lead and just getting beat in sports. And sometimes you just get beat, and he was beaten by a better player that day. Dustin Johnson has an amazing ability to have a very short memory. And in sports, you have to have a short memory if you're going to be great. He's won 21 times. He's won a major before. If he never picks up a golf club again, Steve, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. He'll be just fine.
We make anything out of Koepka having the problems he had for the first time in a final round of a major when he's been the majors guy?
You know, a buddy of mine asked me yesterday, did he have bad karma after speaking the way he spoke on Saturday?
Right.
I don't. I am superstitious when it comes to sports. I do believe in karma in a lot of situations. But in this particular case, I think Brooks just had a bad day on Sunday. I don't think anything of it. I think Brooks will be just fine. His confidence level is sky high. His game is terrific. He'll be back, and he'll be back very quickly. Wouldn't shock me at all. The next major championship, which we have on Golf Channel and NBC at the U.S. Open at Winged Foot next month, wouldn't shock me at all if Brooks makes a run at a third U.S. Open title next month at the next major.
And maybe the biggest story in golf that's not necessarily on the golf course, obviously the end results are, is Bryson DeChambeau, who is finally taken to my physical fitness program and my protein shake diet.
Yeah.
He put on, 40 pounds of muscle?
Yeah, I put on a few pounds during the quarantine as well, but I didn't mean to. But
me too. It's not muscle.
I wasn't trying to hit the ball farther. I was just eating and drinking too much. Look, Bryson is a scientist. You know, there are artists and there are scientists in sports. And not that he doesn't have any artistry to his game, but science is prevalent. And it is a big-time factor with him. I didn't major in physics at SMU, and nor would I ever do that. He did, and he's really into that. The other day, he said he was going to live to be 140. All right, I mean, So anyway,
doubt him. Go ahead, doubt him.
Laughing. By the way, he's not laughing.
No, of course he's not.
You try to be like, oh yeah, that's great. And he's like, no, I'm serious. And so, look, the guy is a proven winner on the PGA Tour. He goes about his business differently than anybody else out there. I have no issue with it whatsoever. And good for him. If he wants to keep doing all that stuff, go ahead. Seems to me like he's overthinking it. He'd be the opposite of Dustin Johnson.
Right.
I think Bryson would have a long memory. Dustin Johnson would have a short one.
Yeah, Dustin, C-ball, hit ball, Bryson. What's the ball made of? Let's take one apart and take a look. It's my friend Steve Sands. Always great catching up with you. I look forward to seeing you in Chicago at Olympia Fields for the BMW. And by the way, I'm glad that Olympia Fields is getting the respect I think it deserved. It took a little grief when Jim Furyk won the Open here, back in 2006, I think it was?
2003, yeah.
3, okay. And I'm glad to see Major Championship Golf coming back to Olympia Fields. And, I bitch about this all the time, but the tour's got to get a regular stop in here every year.
Look, Chicago, I'm a DC guy, born and bred. Chicago is as good a sports town as there is. And for golf specifically, it's a great golf town.
Mm-hmm.
But it's such a great sports town. I love coming there. It's such a cool place. And we're looking forward to coming in a couple of weeks for the BMW. Should be a blast. Olympia Fields is ready to go. I just wish the Chicago fans could be out there rocking and rolling like they always do, because not only is Chicago a great sports town, their sports fans are as good as it gets. So, we will miss them greatly, but we can't wait to get to Chicago.
Yeah, and I'll meet you somewhere off property with my mask on, and we'll stay 6 feet away from each other.
That's perfect. As long as we can clink a glass, it's good by me.
The great Steve Sands. I appreciate it, my friend. Thank you for doing this and being on live from my office.
You got it, man. Be good.
If you have a charitable organization you'd like me to mention, talk about, plug, hype, whatever the word might be for you, let me know about it. Send me information at thecochronshow@gmail.com. That's the official email for Live from My Office. Again, that's thecochronshow@gmail.com. I want to tell you for a second here about Let It Be Us. If you listen to the radio show, you've heard me talking about it. My son Ross and my daughter-in-law Lauren became foster care licensed parents, and we're able to help out and will again in the future in foster care. Because here in Illinois, where we do Live from My Office, it's remarkable how bad the state of Illinois is at foster care, if not dead last statistically near there. It's inexcusable for a state with everything that Illinois has going for it to be that bad at this most important thing. Let It Be Us is an organization that's unlike any other that I'm familiar with, because they promote foster care to adoption. They get you licensed, and they teach you how to be a foster care parent first. And if you want to pursue adoption, they'll help you along that path as well. And if you go to letitbeus.org, you can donate right there. You can find out how to participate right there through volunteering or participating in one of their events as well. You can be licensed to do foster care or respite care. Respite care is where you take care of a foster care child, where the existing foster care parent is able to get out and do some of the things they otherwise couldn't do. As I said, they'll help you adopt. They have these information fairs that you can attend to find out what it's going to take for you to do what maybe is tugging at your heart, and I hope it is. There's literally thousands of children waiting for your love, and every kid deserves to be loved. And you can literally change the world in this messed up year of 2020. I can't think of a better thing for you to do than to find out more at letitbeus.org. That's LETITBEUS, letitbeus.org. And thank you in advance. All right, before we go, I just got a note, and yes, the President of the United States is standing by. So let me get this in. Hello, President Trump.
Hello, Cochran. Let's make this quick. It's Shark Week, and I only have so much executive time to spare.
Well, it's a big week for you then. And do you think Joe Biden picking Senator Kamala Harris to be his running man, you like it? What do you think of it?
You know, Sleepy Joe finally sniffed himself out a running mate. Can you believe that? Kamala Toe Harris. Now, that's going to be a real kick in the wampum for Pocahontas. You know what I mean?
I think you added a middle name there, but look, Elizabeth Warren, that was Pocahontas. Are you confused on this?
Talk about pulling the rug out from under her moccasins. She had to be crushed. And then you have all the other women. None of them received a single rose from Grandpa Joe. So sad.
Senator Harris is the first Jamaican-American and Indian-American woman to be on the presidential ticket.
That's true, which is why Sleepy Joe renamed his campaign bus. Did you know that? Yeah, he's calling it the Pander Express. See what I did there?
You like the chicken egg rolls? They're really good.
Love them. Get the orange chicken, Mike. In all fairness, yeah, it's going to be hard to convince Pence, his wife Karen, to let him debate on stage alone with another woman.
Sure.
He may blow a spiritual gasket.
What was that, sir? Did you mention mother?
Oh no, Mike. I was just saying that Kamala Harris is such a boring pick for VP.
Completely boring, sir. She lacks any personality of her own.
She's completely one-dimensional and a total yes person.
You are so right, my liege. I couldn't agree with you more.
Mike, can you see if that McDonald's down the street can make some quarter pounders a little early for me?
I knew you'd be hungry, so I took the liberty of calling them an hour ago, Your Grace. A DoorDash will be here any minute, sir.
Did I pick the right guy for the job or what, Cochran?
You did, sir. You did. Yes.
Excuse me, Mr. President. I need a word, please. Won't take longer than a Mississippi minute.
Wait a second. Is that Senator McConnell?
Yeah, who's this?
That's Steve Cochran. The last time you and I talked, I hung up on you, and now you're on my new podcast, Live from My Office.
Look, Mitch, if you're wanting to discuss the stimulus package, can it wait?
Donald, don't make me have to give away any more money. All right, honest to God, we're bleeding cash faster than a Hong Kong sailor in a San Francisco brothel. We can't just keep printing this stuff like it's gum wrappers.
Why not? It's just money.
It's not just money. For Horn Snooker's sake, it's a dent the size of my mother-in-law's rear end.
Wow, Mitch, I guess when you put it that way.
Please don't make me sign any more stimulus bills, Dagnabbit. I'm through shoveling money to these bootless, strapless, no bootstrap won't pull themselves up by their bootstrap people.
Wow, I'm sorry, but I think I need the closed captioning turned on for everything you just said.
I actually, for a second there, found myself agreeing with you there, sir. Now, okay, let's move on, if you don't mind. The college football season, serious jeopardy due to coronavirus. You're a big proponent of bringing it back. You still think the guys should play. You're supporting that hashtag, we want to play. Now, is it too late to change the university's minds?
It's never too late, Cochran. America needs college football. America also needs a national coronavirus plan, but let's focus on priorities, okay? College football needs to come back. It needs to come back bigly. Look, these kids, they're not delicate. They're strong and they're tough. They're practically immune to this virus. They're in college, for God's sake. With the 20 other venereal diseases that they're giving each other, catching a little case of the corona sniffles isn't going to be anything to worry about, believe me.
So you think the Big Ten and the Pac-12 both overreacted?
Yes. Football season needs to go forward. Let me put it this way. If Tiger King Joe Exotic can find 5 guys to agree to marry him, then we can sure as hell find a way to have college athletes play football safely. Let them play.
It seems like a sound scientific theory. And I'm glad you were talking about sports a little bit because this is our big sports episode of Live from My Office. By the way, sir, have you subscribed to my podcast yet?
What do I have to do?
You push a button that says subscribe.
I don't get put on some database for my information or anything.
Listen, I'll talk to your people. All right, one last question. The New York Times ran a story that said you wanted your face to be carved into Mount Rushmore. Now, would you really want to be added to Mount Rushmore?
Of course I want my face added to Mount Rushmore. I mean, come on. You got 3 great American presidents, Washington, Lincoln, and Jefferson. And then for some reason, we have President Wilford Brimley up there with his walrus mustache. God rest his soul from the diabetes. But frankly, I don't think he's in the same league.
You're talking about Teddy Roosevelt, though the resemblance is striking.
Regardless, let's be honest. When it comes to rock-hard men, there's no one rockier and no one harder than Donald J. Trump.
You make Michelangelo's David look like Gumby, sir.
Thank you, Mike.
I just felt like I may have thrown up in my mouth a little bit, so I think we're going to have to leave it there, sir.
Excuse me, Mr. Cochran. It's Mitch McConnell. What's the URL on that podcast?
That's Live from My Office.
All right, that's enough, Mitch. I got to run, Cochran. I'm working on a plan to set up cardboard cutouts in schools instead of sending the real kids in, just to make some people happy. It's working out great for baseball and hockey.
That's a good idea. And then they could pump in talking about the teacher behind his or her back.
I need you in the cabinet.
Thanks for calling, President Trump.
Later, loser.
Well, I'd like to thank the president, but I don't want to. Right now, if you follow me on Twitter, and first off, you can follow me on Facebook at Cochran Show, on Instagram at Steve Cochran Show. But if you follow me on Twitter at Cochran Show, I am doing a countdown all the way through to Election Day. Started with day 100 days to November 3rd, and we progress with a new item every single day, which is one of the events that Donald Trump actually did. He did it. He said it. It really happened, and it's mesmerizingly stupid or amazing or offensive because that's what the last 4 years have been. I call it the Trump dump, and the whole point is to remind you the mess we're in has to end, and in case you'd forgotten how bad it was, the Trump dump will remind you. Again, get the Trump dump and all sorts of things that I leave for you on Twitter at Cochran Show, and follow me there, and I hope you will. Again, the email is thecochranshow@gmail.com. Leave your comments there, and good, bad, and different, and tell me anything that's going on in the world. Just remember, when you write me, it may end up being on a future show. Finally, a simple thank you. Thank you to Doc Emrick. Thank you to Steve Sands. Thank you to David Hochberg and everybody at Team Hochberg, presenting sponsors of Live from My Office, but mostly thank you for listening. I look forward to seeing you next time on Live from My Office.
Live from My Office is a service of Monkey Run Productions. All rights reserved. The podcast is hosted by Steve Cochran, and it's mixed, edited, and produced by me, Ross Cochran. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening, and follow Steve on all social media channels. Get in touch with us directly with questions or comments about the show by emailing thecochranshow@gmail.com. Steve is available for corporate speaking gigs. He would love to MC your event, and occasionally, he's funny. Thank you for listening. Head to cochranshow.com for more.